I'm Anthony, and
My name is Chris. It's so nice to meet you.
this video is going to be helpful for people who are experiencing hair loss. One thing that we are missing from our cosmetology schools and from our everyday hair salon practices is the understanding that we are balding due to the sun. No matter what, everyone is balding on the top of their heads, no matter if they don't touch their hair or if they do. We are so hyper focused on styling the hair, which is also costing the hair's ecosystem its health. I believe this young lady has a really good pulse
Regarding what's going on with Miss Fro.
on what people around my age and her age are going to be experiencing.
All up in here, okay, as of late.
I'm going to be sharing some of my personal experiences with my hair, my 14 years of experience as a cosmetologist, and her knowledge.
So I'm actually really grateful that I have my YouTube hair journey here on the internet, even though it's been up and down and whatnot. I really hope that it's been helpful to have had these videos posted.
I am too, and we are going to take a look at her hair journey to see what she has been doing with her hair that could potentially be causing some of the hair loss problems that she's experiencing now. And hopefully some of this information that I'm sharing today could potentially help you on that journey.
So let's get started. All right, so I think my last hair update was fall, like around September or something. Last year, after I had fibroid removal surgery, I did a haircut and I decided to wear my hair in its wash and go state because it is the best state for me to camouflage all of the thinning, all of the hair loss, all of the patchiness, all of that stuff that's going on the top of my head.
The Afro is engineered to expand in a way that it can clearly cover your entire scalp. She has a tight coil, so compacted at the root that you can't tell where her hair is starting, can't tell how long it is at any given place.
You know what, I know it's the first time ever that I've done a wash and go only for a year straight. A buzz cut back in, what was that, like 2017 or something like that. But even then, I think I was twisting the very top of my hair just a little bit to give it some height.
It's interesting to me that she uses the term wash and go. I would consider that to just be wearing your hair naturally air dry. It's the most natural form of wearing your hair. To give it a name and call it a wash and go is a culturally different language that we use around our hair. It speaks to our history. Black hair is a completely separate conversation using a completely different language. However, when you start speaking about balding, all hair ecosystems are the same.
Y'all, it was not hard, okay? It was not hard. Like, she is chilling. She has literally been chilling.
The Afro is the lowest maintenance hair texture. It naturally rises, which means you do not have to groom it as often. Contrasted to hair that falls, it is constantly going to become a nuisance getting in the face. They mainly have to do a lot of hair tucks and ponytails and buns. Having hair that falls around the oval of the head is high maintenance.
Yeah. When my hair is shrunken, it doesn't look like I'm having much of an issue at all. But y'all, I'm telling you now, when it is stretched, it is a hot mess. And everybody on earth would probably tell me to just shave my head, including myself. I done told myself 15,000 times to just shave it off.
The Afro was not intended to be stretched. The natural elasticity of the hair is super coily, designed to survive in that element. When you stretch the hair out, it becomes more vulnerable to the elements, to styling, etc. The hair was built and designed to become sort of a cushion. The further you try and manipulate your hair outside of its natural state, the more damage you're causing.
I'm pretty sure it's obvious that I'm trying to transition, if you will, out of a state of hair loss. Especially since, like, over the past 5 years or so, I've had so many rebounds. I have not been sure what's going to stick around. So, you know, all the updates and stuff that I've been doing over these past several years will be like okay, it's kind of recovering now, and then, you know, shortly after it falls right back out.
The biggest thing that we are missing in the Black community when it comes to hair loss is our trims are not able to properly remove split ends from the hair, especially when you consider Afro hair shrinking to different lengths, which is why we primarily straighten our hair in order to cut it. The problem with growing out any texture of hair is that we're always going to have various lengths of hair on our head at any given time at random combinations. If you are in a state of constantly growing your hair out and you only are trimming the pieces that hit the lengths, that means there's a lot of hair over that time that have not been able to get properly trimmed. This causes hair loss at the root by throwing off your density in that section, then allows the sun to penetrate through to that section, causing more damage to the skin and hair follicle.
So right now, what I've decided to do is try to make sure that what I've acquired over this past year is going to hang around and not fall out again. So whatever length I have left in this area up here is helping to camouflage the patchiness and the holes that I have, okay?
Not only is her hair helping to camouflage any thinning that she has, it's also creating a strong boundary between the sun UV rays and her scalp. The more distance you can put between the sun UV rays and your scalp, the better the soil or the skin will be in order to nurture strong and healthy hair follicles.
So I do have some photos and stuff like that I'm going to be sharing throughout this video. Each wash day up until like maybe a couple weeks ago has been extremely frustrating, discouraging, and all the things. I know if you are dealing with hair loss, you know how this feels. It is awful, okay? And honestly, I don't really recommend the method that I'm doing. Again, I'm choosing to kind of transition out of hair loss, if that's a thing, meaning as my hair grows in, if it decides to grow in, I'm cutting it down so that I don't have to do like a huge chop.
Her method of transitioning out of balding is on point. She has to keep cutting her hair down to her weakest length. Cure the head of hair from the disease split ends. It's a condition of the hair. First step is to start letting your hair grow and use it to protect you from the sun. But there is a consequence of your hair protecting you from the sun. It is going to split at some point after being dried out. Better your ends are dried out than your scalp, because your ends can be clipped. It is not technically alive, so you can remove the problem at the ends, therefore maintain the health of your ecosystem and your scalp.
It's really tedious, it's really stressful. It definitely plays on your emotions sometimes because you are constantly looking at a state of confusion up here. Okay, so it'll be like some hair growing in, some hair not growing in, and then you have length that's kind of all over the place. So it's a really choppy situation.
Every time you go and get a haircut, you have different lengths of hair, you have a different density. Our hair is constantly on a cycle of shedding, growing, and resting. The Afro or any texture of hair will always have a combination of random lengths of hair at any given time.
I personally prefer to like big chop. So I guess you're wondering why I haven't done that, especially since I did it before, right? So many things have changed with my body over the past couple years as I headed towards 40, and now that I am 40, things are still changing. There is a lot going on, y'all, that I'm not quite used to just yet, right? So
as I look back on old photos, I'm seeing a resemblance of the same hairline. However, I am noticing that on my right side, there's a bald spot that was hidden. Now it's starting to become the front of my hairline as opposed to being a few inches or centimeters back. I also have to understand that that is the most impacted part of the hair from the sun, and also the elements and manipulation. We call them baby hairs already. We should start treating them as delicate as we treat babies.
I'm not necessarily ready to do the same exact hairstyle that I had back in like 2017. I'm in a different place, right? I don't even dress the same. So
the cycle of big chops is frustrating. We make moments out of it. Short hair is also stunning. However, we do all agree that long hair is the ultimate goal, right?
for me, I'm trying to gradually get to a place where I am comfortable with what I'm rocking. So let me know if you can relate to that. Also, since I've had so many different lengths over the years, I know what my favorites are.
I love a 40-year-old client. They have tried it all. They have seen it all. They've also heard it. When I start talking my talk, they really are taken off guard. It is something new that I have to provide. There are new techniques. So I'm really interested in reaching my 40-year-old crowd for my personal consultations, where I am going to share with you everything I know about your hair and add layers of technical understanding of your natural hair.
Having like 2 inches or 3 inches on top for me is not my favorite length. My favorite cut when I big chopped the first or the second time from anemia was the first cut I got. However, that cut was messed up because it was all choppy. That was my first time going to the barber, and you know, my hair I think wasn't necessarily like blown out all the way, so I had a choppy cut and I had to go back in to get it corrected.
Barbers don't really know how to manage and manipulate anything longer than their guards. They don't have the understanding of shrinkage once it hits the oval of the head. So it was always a very big struggle for me to grow my hair out and to go into the barber and just get a trim. It was almost like I didn't really know what to ask for either. I had no ideas how split end worked. I just knew that I needed to see a barber. It was more so for my hairline, but they would want to do something to my fro. It always came out different than I expected. It was like a reset. I do believe that they are beneficial for achieving cool shapes. They can be nice for short and mid-length Afro cuts because they do work well on the exterior shape of the head. But if you are really looking to cultivate your natural hair, if you're trying to achieve length, especially if you are trying to recover health or work on your hair's ecosystem, they don't have the understanding of how all of that works. I suggest anyone who is seeing a barber, make sure you have someone who understands healthy hair and the hair's ecosystem, because you will possibly be concerned about balding at some point.
And I think I was still having hair loss and stuff like that. That was my favorite. And then as my hair grew in, my favorite stage was when it was about 6 to 8 inches long on top. And I think 8 inches was too long.
The hair maxes out in terms of its peak in health, its peak in its ability to be managed. This is different for every person in terms of length or style, where things just kind of work for a particular person's head of hair. Then it plateaus and it becomes more of a nuisance than a style that works for you. Perhaps the curls aren't popping as much, it's looking drier, it's taking more product, taking longer to dry. So there's so many different factors that play into a successful air dry style. That's going to take you getting familiar with your hair in all of the stages as it's natural. But the problem I feel like we run into with Afro hair is that we change the fabric of our hair so quickly before we give it a chance to settle in. The more our coils aren't perfectly aligning, it becomes unmanageable in its natural state.
So in reality, it was probably about 6 to 7 inches long on top. The back, I could care less about the back, okay? The back could be a half an inch, 2 inches, 3, 4, that's all fine. But the top for me, because I have a flatter head right here, I prefer it to be about 6 inches at least. That gives me enough room to twist. It gives me enough room for rollers. It gives me enough coils for a wash and go that I'm comfortable with the shrinkage, shrinking here. For me, it's all about like the shape. And right now, it's not quite grown out enough up here where I want to cut it down to that length. So, okay. So even though I don't want to spend a lot of time on supplements and stuff, I will mention that I decided to stopped taking like my allergy medicine Claritin. I was actually using the Equate version from Walmart. As you may know, I have a ton of allergies.
As a cosmetologist, I am not going to be prescribing medicines, ointments, treatments, or anything of that rather that there are doctors, physicians, and people who understand that science. But what I understand as a cosmetologist is how split ends work, and I know how to remove them accurately from the head of hair. I also know how to style hair just using water and manipulate the hair with natural elements so that you aren't harming your hair. This is the most beneficial practices for maintaining your hair for your life. And as a hair groomer, that is my focus. Anything outside of that, and I cannot get into, and I also cannot bring into this conversation when we talk about hair health. If you are suffering from anything internal, you have to get the body under control in order for the flower to be fruitful.
Typically, I am on some sort of allergy medicine. Recently looked up, like side effects and stuff like that, and hair loss is mentioned as a potential side effect. It's really rare.
When you start taking supplements or doing different things that is messing with the chemistry of your body, or maybe you're just aging, that plays a role on your hair health. And in most cases, if you heal, the hair heals the same exact way.
Do I think that it is causing any of the thinning and stuff? No, I don't. But it's just one of those things that it's not going to hurt to try. Well, I guess it might hurt to try because the allergies are real. But I'm trying to see what, happens up in here if I don't take Claritin. I also decided to reintroduce MSM back into my regimen. It was giving me heart palpitations. Turns out it's not, or it was not. Something else was doing that. I don't know exactly what it was. I also introduced women's wellness, which was something that I used to take back in the day. Now, I personally think that I'm dealing with a lot of perimenopausal symptoms, and looking back at my journey, perhaps these things have happened a bit earlier than expected. I know some people can start perimenopause in their 30s, and I kind of think that that was the case for me, and I just didn't know what was going on. When you mix Lyme disease in and anemia and everything's overlapping, it can be a hot mess trying to figure out what's going on. Now, I didn't necessarily start taking the women's wellness for hair, but who knows? If I'm having hormonal hair loss, then maybe it can help me out. I'm taking 2 or 3 different types of collagen supplements.
As a hair groomer, I'm going to be approaching hair care from a very simplistic standpoint. I'm not going to try and be offering you things that could potentially help, but may be at an expense and may not be as official or as legitimate as what I can provide physically for your hair. So I do feel like most of my clients are using all types of enhancements, and it's very random and no one's on them forever. They start taking things for a while and then I hear nothing about it. Yes, if you need boost, I do believe that things could potentially help if you know that science, but I am standing firm on the science of hair care, very good grooming practice.
As far as regimen and all of the things, y'all, I have been extremely simple. Okay, I shampoo my hair twice a week right now. I know I was doing it once a week, but I decided to go back to twice a week since my scalp really prefers to be cleaned that often.
You can tell when your scalp wants to be cleaned. It will start itching. What's sad about a lot of the styles that we put in our hair is that we have to put up with the itching in order to maintain those styles. I've started styling my hair in this way so that I can wash my hair whenever I want to. Getting perfect coils in my hair, styling it out any more than this actually is way too time consuming, and it doesn't last as long. Even if my scalp doesn't need to be washed, I would have to maintain perfect coils on my head, and quite frankly, I like the square shape anyway. That was always the shape I wanted to achieve at the barbers, and they just could not figure it out.
I know many of you don't have that situation, but for me, forever, ever since being like early 20s or something, late teens, early 20s, if I sweat or have anything get into my scalp, pollen and whatnot, I get really irritated and I can get sores. So I'm somebody who has to keep my scalp as clean as possible. Once a week for me was fine. There was absolutely nothing wrong with it, but I wanted to see if me going back to what used to really work for me, especially in the beginning of my journey, twice a week at least, if that would help me out. And I think she loves that as well. So that's what I've been doing since I think around January.
This is why I'm offering personalized consultations for each person, because you cannot give someone a proper hair grooming regimen if you don't understand their personal lifestyle, where they live at, what they're doing with their hair, what the environment is doing to their hair. It is so personal right now to the point where most people are looking at the general information provided based on curl types or hair length or hair color. But none of these factors actually make up a complete hair's ecosystem, which is why I believe a lot of people are still struggling with the basics. When do I shampoo? Which shampoo? When do I do detangling? It's the simple things that I feel like people are still struggling with that my hair consultations are engineered to correct.
I was struggling with my hands getting really, really sensitive and really irritated during wash day. Also my body. Okay, the fatigue is real during wash days, y'all. Like, yeah. But washing my hair, I have to wear gloves now just to make sure that my hands don't dry out so much and get extremely sore and irritated. Yeah, I'm doing that.
If you were to wash your hair with lemon juice and having that on your hair or scalp or hands for too long, it will affect you. And this is a natural product. So imagine what unnatural products and chemicals are doing, sitting on our hands, our scalp, running down into our eyes.
I'm currently also detangling in the shower versus over the tub, simply because my back is not having it anymore.
For anybody who hasn't done or doesn't know what a wash day is, you can't imagine having to finish a style and keep your hands above your head on a time limit, probably way over time limit, your hands going numb, you getting cold, product in your eyes, conditioner bottle slipping, product wasted. It's just like a nightmare. I always felt like there was something wrong with that concept. I felt like we should be loving on ourselves. It should be nurturing and not frustrating. We shouldn't be angry at our hair, at ourselves for not being able to manipulate our hair. I think it's a very unhealthy relationship.
So let's talk about what's been going on as far as the growth that I've been having. I have finally started to feel a little fro, a nice little dense fro in the roots of my hair. And when I tell you, it has been like years since I felt that.
Density and how hair naturally thins out the longer it gets, because you're always going to have more hairs that are growing in and that are already established at the root. So it's always going to feel thicker there. But maintaining the density as it grows out is very challenging. One, because you are going to at some point get damage and split ends, which is going to change the length. And then at some point you are going to experience your hair falling out on that cycle. The goal is to maintain as dense as possible of hair as you can, especially if your hair rises. It's quite the opposite for different textures, because they actually need lighter hair in order to maintain volume in their hair, to block out the sun so that they don't go bald.
It has been a really long time, y'all. Okay, seriously. So it's to the point now that when I'm washing my hair, and even when I go in for scalp massage, which has also been a year since I've been doing that.
Scalp massages work. They are free.
I'm having a harder time getting in there. So I mentioned before, matter of fact, it was when I cut my hair on camera last year, that I could go in here and it just, I'm hitting my head, right? Because like the density was just gone. And it was like that forever. Finally, I'm feeling like in the shower, I'm like, okay, I'm having a hard time getting in here.
Depending on how much damage has been done to that hair's ecosystem, you may be experiencing thinning for a while before you actually notice it. Also may experience a long recovery phase before you start noticing those hair follicles are returning back to their healthy phase. I want to encourage people to start taking those steps. It does take a while for your hair to start regenerating, but the sooner you do it, the more of a chance you have to save those hair follicles, because we do not get hair follicle replacements.
That's a great sign. That means that something is working, something is kicking in, and thank you, Jesus, okay?
She's having all of this new growth. She has about a year to trim those hairs, but if she continues to keep growing out her hair, it's going to be very difficult for her to get down there and start trimming those hairs. That means that they will start to split and go back into a rest cycle. And this starts becoming a bigger problem with balding as time progresses. So like I said in the beginning of the video, I do believe she has a good plan to cut her hair back short, maintain that length until those hair strands are back to their normal density and cuticle width.
For the longest time, I have not felt that, okay? And the length that I decided to keep was giving that illusion of density.
The outline of anyone's hair is always going to be the shortest and the most fragile. You need to receive a haircut more frequently, and I think that if we do that, we can start to see the hairline reverse in the opposite direction, and that's one theory that I am practicing on myself. I'm also using a lot more sunscreen this year, so we will see if that has any change in the progression of my hairline receding.
But now it's to the point to where I'm comfortably able to chop more off because actual density is coming in. So I'm very excited and I'm very hopeful. I'm really hoping it sticks around and doesn't play me again.
Density in healthy hair is always going to be better than length. And I do mean just for the individual and the look of it. It's going to feel better running through your hands. Your scalp is going to feel good. It's just something about having healthy hair that is more magical than having long hair.
I watched several of my old videos, and what I would notice is, and I mentioned it at the time when I was, doing hairstyle tutorials and stuff like that. I would say things like, oh, it's fall shedding, and this area is, it came out and it's coming back in or whatever, and I wouldn't worry about it because it would always kind of bounce back in or bounce back. I also noticed that even when I was recovering, when my hair was cut really, really short, I can see that the areas that I'm struggling with now were still there. I just had the coverage of my hair being shorter, And again, my hair camouflages a lot, so that has just helped me over the years.
The areas that we are struggling with, we have been struggling from birth with. These are going to be dependent on your hair texture, how it falls around the natural fall of your head shape. That is so important to where the sun is hitting you at. It's just like a patch of grass or a lawn of grass. If there's a place, a corner where the sprinklers don't hit as much, but the sun is hitting twice as much as some other shady spots, you will see that area dry out quickly. You will see ugly looking grass and really dried out soil. This is how our hair develops. We need to start catching these problems early on. We need to start using this information to protect our children's hair. A lot of us are doing styles that are exposing our children's scalps, tight ponytail styles, a lot of things, short haircuts that are really stopping the growth of the hair's ecosystem. It has to start when you're younger, especially given that we are doing things at younger and younger ages to manipulate our hair and to make ourselves done or presentable. Our balding is going to be accelerating, and you can see that through the data here in the US.
I also saw things like back in I don't even know, like when I used to record on my phone, a little patch missing right here. And I mentioned that last year that I noticed that it looked like I was getting a spot right here, but that spot was there a long time ago. It just was kind of like not as prominent. I actually want to twist these sections here on my hairline really small because I have very sensitive edges. They've been really sensitive since having children. They've never really been up to par since then. They're a lot sparser than other places on my head, so I just try to preserve whatever little bit of hair I have there as best as I can. They're so sensitive to the point that whenever I put oils and things on them to try to thicken them up, they get irritated. My scalp gets irritated. It's just this whole thing.
The scalp is more sensitive than the face. We put more strain on our hair follicles and our scalps more than we put on our face. Constantly twisting your hair or even tugging and touching at the root, potentially going to harm the root bed. I do think there is a space where you can strengthen the root with a little bit of manipulation, maybe massaging techniques, to pull at the root, to comb at it constantly, to detangle it constantly, is in fact harming the hair's ecosystem. Even when I was relaxed, it just kind of plateaued all the time. I would always have to do a lot of trimming on the top and whatnot, and it just has always been an issue in this area for me and in the back. Okay. Our hair naturally rises up. We're getting a lot of sun exposure to the nape of our heads. You also have to think the top crown of our heads, especially the corners, are receiving more sunlight than the physical top of our heads. These are the main areas that's affected by the sun, and no matter what, they will be the first to show signs of the hair's ecosystem decreasing, especially if you are doing any sort of styling to the hair. You will just accelerate that. The thing that's unique within the Black community is that we are also pulling our hair out through tight hairstyles. So we're showing random baldness in places that normally don't go bald because of how tight our hairstyles are. But even when you think about that, we are still going bald a lot faster in the top areas than on the sides, even if we're doing harmful things to the tops and the sides. The fact that the top is still being affected by the sun, dried out, it is weaker than the sides of our heads. I don't know, y'all. It might just be kind of how I'm set up. Okay. It might just be kind of like how I'm set up. I don't even want to say it like that, but for real, I'm not sure whose genes I've inherited, may have inherited. I don't know. They are not finding any correlation between free radicals like testosterone and DHT to be connected with balding. But what they are finding a connection to is head, neck, and shoulder skin melanoma in correlation to having less hair on your head. This means that the sun is going to affect us no matter what, and if your hair isn't there, it's going to affect your skin. The sun builds up over time the radiation and breaks down the body and the ecosystems. This means that the more time you have under the sun receiving that radiation, the quicker your body will respond with cancer. Or potentially blaming myself for something that I'm literally not doing, okay? As you know, I've been keeping my sides shaved, like this part, and I'm still keeping that up. And I recently decided to do the same thing in the very back because I naturally have an area back here that refuses to grow. I would not recommend keeping any part of your hair that short. The more space you can provide between the contact of the sun and your skin, especially around your hairline, the better it's going to be for your hair's ecosystem. So once you remove that protective barrier, the baby hair section, and cut it down, the hair right after it is now going to start being affected more so at the root. So the goal is to grow all of your hair as long as you can get it, especially if it rises. You want it to be as dense as possible. Otherwise, those baby hairs will disappear that you're trimming down, and the hairs section right behind it will be the new baby hair section.
I think that this might be stemming from relaxers. I have like an inverted hairline in the back, so it always looks like I have a hole if I get past a certain length. The hair that grows there is so fine, it almost looks transparent.
This could be from relaxers. It could be from those childhood ponytails. It could be from a number of things. However, any signs of thinning sections are potentially being affected by the sun at greater levels than any other part of the hair. That means that the hair is being affected potentially by your grooming practices or styling preferences, but it is also taking on the brunt force of the sun, or it has. Therefore, the ecosystem is not producing healthy strands of hair. So the last thing you want to do is cut the hair short and invite more sun into those areas. You actually need to let those areas grow out and potentially use the longer hair that you have on your head to fill in those areas and provide more shading.
I got tired of it, y'all, okay? Because it's just ridiculous. I was racking my brains like, is it from the way I tie my bonnet at night? Is it from the scrunchies, which I don't even have to use the scrunchies to keep my hair from getting messed up back here anymore. I was only doing that to preserve my coils when I slept on my back. Is it from me sleeping on my back because I'm trying to sleep on my back to avoid allergies and smushing my face and all the things? Okay, I'm racking my brains. I'm like, you know what, Chris? It has been like this forever.
There are so many nuances when it comes to hair growth. For instance, the shape of your skeleton and the shape of your head and how firm or how soft that skin area is determines how well or how poorly hair can grow in that section. Most certainly in the middle backs of everyone's head, we have really soft, mushy skin area that is not the best for hair growth. Depending on your head shape and your skeleton shape and how that makes your skin fall around your head is going to determine the type and quality of soil that skin can provide to nurture healthy hair follicles.
Stop. You're just gonna cut it off, okay? So I cut it off. It was like 9.5 inches long or something like that. I parted the back and I decided to make some sort of undercut to make it look like it's supposed to look like that, okay? And I'm moving on. I'm moving on, y'all.
I would recommend approaching that area, keeping it short and really dense, not too short, is going to be your best option in maintaining those healthy ends to see if that area would start regenerating, but you must also incorporate covering and protecting that area from the sun. Giving up is a real thing. People in their 60s and the later generations have given up. They've tried everything. If they're experiencing balding, it could be from so many things at that point that it's too confusing and stressful. They're probably just balding because of stressing about the small little thinning that they experienced when they first started stressing about it. I am looking to reach the people who have not given up and who are looking to try a different alternative. I would love to speak to you. Hit me up on Instagram directly and let's have a chat about your hair's health.
I'm borderline about to just shave the whole back again. You might be like, why would you have to shave the whole back? Okay, so Remember those things I was talking about, you know, like hormones and stuff. I feel like, and I know, I can see it. I can't even say I'm feeling like, because it's actually happening. I have seen many women of perimenopausal age and older. Many of them have said that their hair texture changed as they got older. And you hear that and you're like, okay, well, yes, I'm assuming that that can happen to some people and whatnot. But y'all, they are serious, okay? Because I'm pretty sure that is what's happening in the back of my head.
Hair textures are going to look different depending on density. If you have 4C hair, then you have every texture of hair on your head. Depending on the density of each section determines how well the hair can shrink, how tight it can get, and how comfortable it is with being super tight. In areas that are thinner, it's going to stretch out even easier if just water hits it. Hair air drying with the constant weight of heavier hair over top causes the thinner sections to air dry straighter, and over time these thinner sections causes all types of problems.
And it's not the moisture overload thing, it's not that. It is literally growing out much looser in this part of my head. To the point where I'm in the shower and I'm like, whose hair is this? Whose hair is this back here? It doesn't go with the top of my head at all. The waves are coming out of nowhere, like from the root, okay? They are coming out of nowhere, and it has been driving me up a wall because even though it's looser, you would think, oh, it would be easier to tangle. No, it's worse. For me, it's worse because my strands are so fine. All they do back there is just tangle up and get stuck, and it is a mess, okay? So I'm borderline about to just do my undercut much higher and just get rid of it.
What you are seeing is hair strands that are not going in its perfect coil. You have them going in random directions. They will cause a lot of problems because they'll keep getting tangled, as opposed to going with the other curls on the head. They're doing their own thing, causing a disruption in the curls, making detangling, styling more difficult, and you really have to be more delicate with those hairs because the natural elasticity is already stretched out, so therefore they're easier to pop. And when you get split ends, it's worse. The hair tangles faster and the problems just repeat until you go bald.
It's great to have coverage coming in. I hope it sticks around. I have noticed, like I mentioned in September, I was afraid that the hair loss was going to start getting up in here, and it has. It also has reached up in here. I have really short pieces all up in the crown, okay?
The crown of our heads is always going to be the first place to show thinning. Depending on the shape of your head and how your hair grows, everywhere along your hairline will be affected by the sun greater. What you will start to feel is pain at the root, at your scalp. You will experience drier, rougher textured hair. Over time, these hair follicles get weaker and weaker, producing thin, baby-like hairs until that section is burnt dry. One thing we can do to combat that is to maintain the health of those strands so that that hair follicle reaches its maturity, it goes into its rest phase naturally, and on its next growth cycle, it produces a stronger strand of hair. You have to let these cycles continuously grow in stronger, and so the hair ecosystem thrives as opposed to the hair's ecosystem in survival mode.
I also have had sensitivity and, you know, the itching and stuff like that. It is pollen season, but, you know, those are typical signs of like alopecia, androgenetic alopecia and stuff like that. I don't have any scarring or anything like that.
Asians are the least likely to bald out of any race, but because Asian hair is so heavy, so long, and it's so dense and almost indestructible, their hair is so heavy and plentiful that it actually becomes a problem for them, causing scarring alopecia.
I have coverage, my follicles look great, they look active according to the dermatologist and whatnot.
The thing about dermatologists is that they are only going to prescribe you supplements, vitamins, a prescription for some drug to counteract what's going on internally with your body. But they are not an understanding of how split ends work, and they also don't understand how the sun is causing people to go bald. I've recently had a few conversations with dermatologists, and they are all still under the same influence that DHT and testosterone causes balding at the top of the heads. And so those are the treatments that they are going to give you. I don't think that that's bad, especially if you really need them. But if you are missing the part of hair care that maintains healthy hair strands, then inevitably you will go bald.
But it definitely has traveled up in here. And when I'm wearing my headbands, nothing is up in here, okay? So there's no reason for this area to be being affected, but it is. I also noticed it back here, again, like thinning.
And you can see the shape of her head where she would get the most sun impact from. Those are the points she's pointing at. If she takes the advice of guarding her scalp and maintaining a very dense head of hair to block out the sun, she will start to recover. That's also given if she is removing the split ends off of all of that new growth.
I've just been trying to catch it, and I think I've done pretty well with catching it because, again, the new growth that I'm feeling is all over. It's more concentrated up in here because this is where I was focusing, but I am getting some new growth back up in here. The right side, right here, is, I lost the most over here. It's very concentrated on the right side.
The sun rising in one part of the world and setting on the other. If that has to do with one side being affected by the sun more often, or if our hair is just like the rest of our bodies where one side is stronger because of oxygen, blood flow. It could be a combination of both.
Just looking at the pattern of hair thinning that I've had, the fact that it's literally right here, and it almost, again, now that it's getting up in here and going straight back, it's literally like a line, like a road map, okay? Like right down the center of my head, going all the way to the back. Like I could draw like a line. Yesterday I actually washed my hair and I cut it shorter again, so it's basically back to where it was last year. I keep having to go right back to that same area, so whatever. I kind of don't care anymore. Like, it just is what it is. My goal right now is to just keep hair on my head, keep it as healthy as possible, and to be confident in what I have, right? So
with age, you do start to care less about the actual image that you're putting out, and you just are appreciative that you have it. I do want to catch the people in this point where they have given up on styling. They don't care about all of these superficial things, and they just are happy to have hair and it be theirs.
I've noticed that a lot of ladies who are around my age who also have natural hair channels, they're also dealing with very similar issues. Whether it's, again, perimenopausal thinning, like hormonal issues, or CCCA, or androgenetic alopecia, or scarring alopecia, whatever. Like, many of us are dealing with something very, very similar.
Hair influencers are going to be experiencing the bulk of the problems that the Black community are facing because they are styling their hair so often. It's a part of their lifestyle. They're doing it just for clicks and views, and that is going to start to show up on the hair's ecosystem in one way or another. The products, there's random skin diagnoses, there's random skin cancers, random cancers in general that are popping up. And I believe, unfortunately, because they're doing things in such an excessive force, you will see a lot of these influencers experiencing problems with their hair. And especially at 40. That's when we start declining our natural vitality, harder to bounce back from things that you have been doing to your hair.
And I'm not sure if we all were relaxed. I know I was relaxed. I relaxed my hair way too often, y'all. I'm talking like at one point for many years, I was doing it like monthly, okay?
Any chemical damage is irreversible. And so she should be very lucky to have the head of hair that she has now. But I do want to bring up those soft skin areas again. When you are chemically processing skin, just like having a really healthy bed of soil versus a dry one, if you do harm to both of them equally, the one that was already weaker is going to show signs of poor health when it comes to the ecosystem. Because she was relaxing that soft area and it's receiving a lot of sun contact, that area is definitely over manipulated, and it's almost impossible to regenerate hair follicles, especially once it's been burnt off by a chemical.
I don't know if, thinking about like all the studies that have come out with relaxers and even like extensions and stuff like that, like, I don't know, okay? But it's extremely frustrating, and unfortunately, it's really common. But I know for a fact that by them also sharing what's going on with them, it's helpful to all those who are not in front of a camera, who are dealing with this, and who may feel like they are by themselves. So, yeah, thank you, Jesus, for the progress thus far. I hope and pray that if you are dealing with hair loss, you are encouraged and you're finding success in the methods and things that you're trying. I know how hard it is. I know how frustrating it is. It's not fun. It is not fun. So please stay encouraged, and I hope this video was helpful in some sort of way. Again, it's not a tutorial. It's not like I don't have all of the answers. This is a roller coaster, okay? But it's gonna be okay. It's gonna be all right. God is good. I still got some hair.
Now let's go through her YouTube feed and see what she's been doing on her hair, and then I'll have my final comment.
Natural Me 4C, thank you, sis. Her name is Chris, and she has 133K subscribers and 504 videos. So this girl is an OG. I'm just going to scroll down to the bottom. Wow, we have 11 years, 12. Oh my gosh, it's still going. It's still going. Wow, she's been doing this for a while. Okay, interesting. She started off bald, this thing. Okay, I love this. She has been doing twist outs for a while. She has been trimming her hair regularly, and I think that all shows in her hair today because it's so dense and full and it's still luscious. It seems like she's been doing just some twist outs. Her husband were doing some twist outs on her, deep conditioning, the avocado things, that looked like a V08 product, which is awful, but I'm sure we've all used it. I see some Carol's daughter up in there. She understands hair's pure porosity. Like, this girl is, she's on her thing, and she looks more natural than anything. And I do believe that is why her hair is so bountiful today, because she really was on her natural vibe from day one, and she's been maintaining medium length hair, which I think is ideal. Oh, she has children. Beautiful. Mixed children, so the hair's a little softer. But wow, you can really see that she kind of maintained a medium length. You can see in a few times her hair getting pretty long, because you can start to see the ends really get kind of thin and wispy. But the shorter she keeps it, the thicker and denser it becomes. I would say for as long as she has had this account, she's been doing very, very good with her hair and taking care of her hair's ecosystem. She probably had some things happen to her hair's ecosystem when she was a child that she never fully recovered from, or her hair did not mature properly. But other than that, everything since 12 years ago, Miss Thing has been keeping up with her hair. She's been trimming it. She hasn't been straightening it. She's been pretty on to it. So the only other thing that I can say about her is that she has been using a lot of products, and that does affect the skin greatly. And over time, yes, it will definitely cause the skin to burn out and that to show up in hair thinning. Maybe she deleted, her least viewed videos, but it looks like there's a good enough mix in here to gauge that it's also generally been going downhill in terms of the views. And I do believe that is a testament to where we are today with us seeing everything and us being able to, we know hair so much, we know it so well, and nothing is new to us. So an air dry style is not that important. Trying a new product is not exciting anymore. We're realizing that all these things are the same and they're all harmful, but to really just grow your hair out and leave it naturally air dried is going to be just as redundant. She can only do that in a video, about 5 different times. And at that point, unless you have her same hair length, hair texture, and hair density, it's not going to work for you exactly the same. Hair influencers are going to have to find a different angle, and they're going to tap out because we've dug into hairstyling, and now we need to dig into leaving our hair naturally air dried and using it to protect us from the sun. And that's where people are going to be moving towards, especially as we see more and more random cancers pop up and younger people start to bald.
Comment down below if this video was helpful in any way, if you want to see more of these styles of videos. I am curious to go over more of these YouTubers' pages from every texture and culture of hair and give my opinion on things and how we can solve balding together. Thank you for sharing this video, sharing such a sensitive topic, and I do believe we will see this happen more often with these hair influencers. They may just drop off, they may be transparent, they may just start blaming it on some random health issue that could or could not be directly related to their hair grooming practices. It's going to affect everyone differently. It's going to show up differently for every person, and this is why I'm offering one-on-one consultations remotely for people who are curious, who have some skill and have put in some time working with their natural hair. You and I especially need to have a conversation so we can elevate that. If you are that person that just doesn't want to do anything to your hair, but know that at the very least there's going to be a minimum of grooming that you have to do, and you want help figuring that out, especially anyone thinning, reach out to me on Instagram. I'm looking to speak to you all. Okay, I do appreciate you checking this video out, and hopefully I get to talk to you either down in the comments, one-on-one through a consultation, or you could just text me. Later.